And so it is. All right, let's talk about how we flip cards around. I'm going to send you guys a tutorial from the worst site on the web, W3 Schools. All right, so this is the one that we're going to go through. To start with, I want you to just copy this code in and see if you can get it working. And then we'll deconstruct it and talk about why it works the way that it does. But go to that link in chat. You'll have to get your own image for it, but otherwise everything else should just work as is. Go. All right, Mons Frere, give me a fist to 5. Fist is, what are we supposed to be doing? 5 is, I got a flipping card. All right, Bryce is in good shape. Lynn, Carlos, Andrew, Logan, how you doing?
Still working on it.
Okay. I'll give another couple minutes. All right, let's check these out. All right, so I got a picture here. I hover over it. It's got information on the back. Pretty cool. Let's deconstruct this a little bit. So I have this flip card element, which has an inner container, which contains a front for the card and a back for the card. Take a second to visualize that. What do the containers on this sort of look like? Container, inner container, front, back. Something like this. All right, fair enough. Right. Let's take a look at what we're doing styling wise. So this is our outer. Has a transparent background color, a width and a height, a border, a perspective. So one of the things I do when I'm playing around with something like this, what happens if I mess these up a little bit? I just play with them. No border. Is the border like a critical element of this? Oops. I'm still serving it up. No, in fact, made it better by getting rid of that, that little stroke around it. All right, so that was just that. That's just decorative. Okay. What about the background color? Can I get rid of that? Yeah, sort of looks like it. What if I make the height bigger? Changes. Ooh. All right, now it's taking up the entire thing. But it was kind of interesting that, like, if I made it small, I saw like a reversed image of the guinea pig. All right, it's a good thing to sock away. And then this perspective, what if I make it really little? Whoa! Okay, what if I make it enormous? Okay. Worked. What if I make it just smaller than it was? Okay. Oh, weird. What's that doing?
Changing like how far out it looks like it's going.
Yeah. But really, like, how far away you are from it. Because when I do these like lower values, it looks like it's like in my face. Make it a bigger value, looks like I got a little bit more distance from it. See if they have the image. Come on. There's a good image that I think illustrates it well. Yeah, this is what I was looking for. Cool. So, all right, we set it to 1,000. Well, let's see what happens if we just get rid of it entirely. Also works. It's a little bit flatter. But hey, works. The difference between them is with the perspective, we see it sort of guesses what it would look like as it turns. Without it, it just sort of like flips the pixels. All right. So that's the total card right there. this inner. This container is needed to position the front and back side. Da-da-da-da-da-da, relative positioning. Anybody who was in the lesson yesterday, or I guess just anybody who knows, what's relative positioning?
Position closest, well, it's positioned relative to its most immediate, absolutely positioned relative.
Ooh, other way around. You have
Oh,
the right idea.
Ancestor.
That's going to be the thing that these absolutely positioned elements are relative to. Otherwise, they're relative to the body. So I can say that this is relative, absolute, so those front and back divs don't take up any space in the DOM. They don't push anything out of the way. I'm saying I want to instead choose where they are relative to the inner container. And what I've chosen to do is set them both take up 100% of it. Weird. So they're both absolutely positioned relative to the same thing, and they both take up all of it. Means they're overlapping.
And then the 100% on that flip card inner is saying that it's taking up at least 100% of the flip card div space.
Correct.
Could you talk a little bit more about the position? I'm not sure if I completely understand that.
It's going to take you a sec. Position is like probably the wonkiest thing in CSS. At least like wonkiest common thing in CSS, I guess I'd say. So we have two major, like, three major families of flow positioning. And now I'll just say two. Two major families of positioning. We have flow-based stuff and not so flow-based stuff. So flow-based stuff looks like this. I have some things that take up the entire width of whatever container they're in. I have other things that only take up as much space. All right, I want to add another block level thing. All right, well, then it has to be on a new line. One inline thing, one block thing, whole bunch of inline things. But these all can push each other out of the way and stuff. We call this static positioning. We also have absolute positioning, works totally differently. So with absolute positioning, we have some container, and then inside of that, we have things that we can just put wherever we want. We can make them overlap. It's just we can make them go outside the boundaries of it, but they are positioned relative to some kind of container. They don't have any weight, so they can't push each other out of the way. They don't expand anything. But I'm giving some fixed point on the document that I can position something relative to. So in this case, inner is this blue box, and front and back are little red boxes in here. And we've said we want both of them to overlap completely and take up the entire container. Questions about that idea?
So you have to say the parent is relative, and that will, then you can decide whatever you do with the children.
Exactly. Now, if I didn't say that the inner thing was relative, then it's relative to the body, like the entire document. It's its nearest ancestor, as Lynn put it, nearest ancestor that has relative positioning.
So if you have, is every child relative then, or is it only where you put absolute?
Only ones that you have absolutely positioned. That's a really good point. We can also have statically positioned things inside of our relative container. They don't push absolutely positioned things out of the way. Absolutely positioned things can't push them out of the way. But we can have them both in the same container.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I can totally also have regular flow-based stuff that's statically positioned, and we'll just overlap or underlap those things. So in the case of our cards, so this is like the structure of the DOM. That's like sort of what the tree looks like. Visually, at this point, we have this outer container, this inner container, the front card, and the back card. Everything's kind of on top of each other in this.
Kyle?
Yep.
I'm a little unclear on why we can't just have the inner container with the properties of the outer container. Why is it necessary to have two containers?
We'll see if it is. It's a great question. All right. My next question for you, though, is why does, all right, I get why these two cards have to be set to take up 100% of the width and height. But this isn't absolutely positioned. This is flow content. Why do I have to set the width and the height of that? What happens if I get rid of them? We ran into this yesterday. Anybody who was in that lesson?
It ends up not taking up any space.
Any space at all. Why?
There's nothing in it.
Because it doesn't think that it has content to make space for.
Yep. Those absolutely positioned elements don't take up any space. So they don't stretch the container. Like this bigger blue box, we either have to set dimensions on it or we have to have static content that stretches it out to a shape. Otherwise, it basically doesn't exist. We can still coincidentally position things relative to it, but if we're trying to make them look inside of it or something like that, something has to be giving it those dimensions. Cool. Yeah, if I, no. So yeah, if I do that, yeah, that blue thing basically doesn't exist at all. That sucks. Cool. Let's see if, like, to Lynn's point, what can I take out of here? See if it still works. I don't need the text to be centered. Left line's fine. Transform style, preserve 3D. What if I get rid of that? I'm not doing the 3D thing anyway. Ooh, something there.
But extract.
Okay, all right. What back face visibility? Do we actually need that? Ooh, apparently. Okay, do I need to? That needs to be set to something. That's the front. What if I get rid of those? Yeah, that's fine. We've got that and that. All right. So I'm going to change the order on these a little bit. I'm going to move the hover down to here. Shouldn't change anything. And I'm going to get rid of this fallback. For that, we got the total container of this inner container. We are absolutely positioning and setting backface visibility for both the front and the back. And we're saying the back should have these colors and be flipped around. And then we're saying that the whenever you hover over the total container, then flip the inner one 180 degrees on the y-axis. We could change those. We could make it flip on the x-axis, like that.
Okay.
Do it on the z-axis. Actually, will it let us? Might not. No, that doesn't work because it doesn't break the plane. But certainly do X.
And if you didn't have the transform on the flip card back to begin with, would it just make it so that the text became like the wrong direction? Down in the flip card back class, that first transform that we have.
So the transform still happens. The thing that doesn't happen is the animation.
Oh. Oh, that's boring.
Transition just says, all right, whenever the transform property changes, make that change happen gradually over 0.8 seconds rather than all at once. Make it excruciatingly slow. Okay. Let's see. What else? I'm not using Safari, so let's take that out. One of Lynn's questions was, what do we need that outer container at all? We might not. What if we do that?
We won't.
Okay.
We didn't.
Versus that. So I think you can make an argument that the outer container is good for, it's like this still has magic happening in it with like the transitions and what have you. You can also make a case that we want to separate that out from just this card needs to be yay big. But truth be told, I'd write it like this. So what if we get rid of those, and just get rid of the element altogether? Flip card, hard card. We broke something. Flip card front. Yeah, it feels like that should work to me. Well, it's not. So you can trick it into using that hover state by going over to that and just hitting hover. That helps sometimes, at least for debugging. Maybe. Oh, interesting. Put those back. Oh, did something. All right, so that's working. What can I take out? So that isn't doing anything, so that I should be able to take that out. I can speed up the animation again. Okay. And then it is still targeting the hover state on that. Oh, no, transform shouldn't do that. My guess was that we want the outer container to not move while the inner container is being rotated. Because otherwise, as soon as it like got off of your mouse cursor, it wouldn't exist anymore, and so you wouldn't be hovering. But I don't think that's how transforms work. That's interesting. I'll have to look into that. Okay. What else can we?
If we wanted it to flip and stay flipped, would that be like a JavaScript on click sort of function?
Interesting. I want it to flip and stay flipped.
Or like let the user determine when it flips back without having the hover state.
Sure. So let's figure out how we do that. Yeah, I click on it and flip it, and then I click on it and flip it back. I can't think of a way to do that without JavaScript. Luckily, we're JavaScript developers. All right, so I'm gonna put script tag in here, and I'm going to grab this flip card. Okay, so I'm going to target that flip card, and whenever it gets clicked on, then what I want to do is I want to toggle a class on it. So it's going to be a show front class, maybe. Or no, I'll do a show back. No, reverse, that's what I'll do. So I'm going to take the event.target.classlist.toggle this reverse class. So let's take a look at what just this does. Take a look at that flip card. I click on it. Oops.
Is it because it still has that hover pseudo class?
Yeah, that shouldn't do it. See, JavaScript mad at me? Okay, I want to try something. If I make this container take up the entire viewport. Ah, so that works. Interesting. You can see it adding and removing the class there. So what that tells me is that oh, interesting. It's doing it on different elements because of the event bubbling. All right, so instead of doing an event.target, I'm going to do it directly on the flip chart. There we go. All right, that's kind of what I was hoping it would be. All right, so now I can click on it and toggle a reverse class. Now the only change is instead of that, it's going to be something with flip card and the reverse class. Notice they're all together. Something that is both a flip card and a reverse. I want to rotate its inner container. So I hover, nothing happens. I click, it rotates. It rotates. Pretty cool. All right, what else do you want to know?
So with how you have it set up right now, is it set up to only react when it's on the click, or can you click anywhere?
You can click anywhere on the flip card. So anywhere that's blue right now. That includes over here. If I wanted to constrain it, then flip card can't be a block element. Just fine. Let's make it an inline block element. So that'll keep it having width and height and padding and all the things that block elements have, so it's not going to try to take up the whole page. Now, just a little piggy. So I can click there to switch it, but not over here. Other questions? Going once. Going twice. All right, go and flip some stuff around. Cheers.